please put your phone away if you're on.
It still says video is starting.
Good. Put your phone on. Yeah, you're right.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Wanda J. Watson. I am running for Brazos County Commissioner Precinct 4. I hope everyone is having a great afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here to talk to you about my candidacy and what's going on in Brazos County. I will say to you that any of you who have been keeping up with what's happening in Brazos County, there have been some issues that have come before the court that have been somewhat controversial. And so therefore, I will talk briefly about some of those issues. As I tell everyone when I have an opportunity to talk to folks, is that Precinct 4 is one of the most racially and economically diverse precincts in Brazos County. So the issues that impact them are unique in some cases, but the more important part is when you talk about things such as taxes. That community it has an adverse, it is an absolute adverse impact on folks who pretty much, you have folks who are actually wage earners and you have folks who make up to 6 figures or more. And so the impact of Precinct 4 can, as I said, have an adverse effect. And so as different folks are talking about the no new taxes and what they believe and what impact that will have, that is it is as important to the residents of Precinct 4 as it is to the county and those individuals within the county. So I have concerns about the increase in the tax rate, yet I also, as I have gone on what I call my listening learning tour, I've attended a number of commissioners court meetings. I have attended a number of meetings that are related to the entities that are part of the public-private partnership with the county, because I wanted to understand what a commissioner does, what issues, what they're responsible for, who they use as resources as they make these very important decisions. And so I recognize the importance of being able to finance all that the county is responsible for. We all want good roads. We all want, good roads and bridges. That's number one in terms of the job description. And so I find that extremely important. And so when citizens come back to the court or any of the other government entities and they say, okay, why aren't you taking care of these things? There has to be a balance. There has to be a fairness in terms of how do we fund how do we provide funding for the resources that are important to what the citizens need. And so as I go forward as a candidate and as I go forward as commissioner for Precinct 4, I hope to learn more and be able to communicate with the community the importance of what I am, how I would vote on those very important issues that are having a great impact on the citizens. So the tax rate is very important. The impact on no new taxes and whether or not the county will be able to do what they need to do, how the budget is managed. Understand that the budget was not made in a vacuum. The Commissioners Court had been working up to 6 months to get to the point of a proposed budget, and how it has evolved into what it has evolved into, I'm not quite sure. But on some level, funding the Commissioners Court, funding government and the operation of government, paying for the workers. There are workers, understand, they're not just the court there. There are a number of employees that are also impacted by any decisions that are made as it relates to funding the commissioners or the county. So I will move on from that. The other thing that came up that was a very important issue that had major impact was the closing of a polling site on the A&M campus at the MSC. As one who finds polling sites important as it relates to my campaign, but as a citizen, as a resident, it is important. I will never ever support any decision that is considered suppression of voting. We all deserve the right to exercise our democratic right to have a place to vote, and polling is so important. So I will absolutely work with the commissioners to make sure that we fund as many polling sites as possible to allow all of the citizens of Brazos County, whether they're students on the campus or those of us who reside out in the county. I will always vote to make sure that there are plenty of polling sites available and whatever that is required, understanding that it is not only the court that makes that has it is impacted, but for example, the November 8th ballot will have the commissioner's position office on there, absolutely, but it will have statewide elections. It will also have both city council offices, vacant offices on there, and it will also have both school boards. And so school board, city government, county government, all of those from a local perspective will be on, can be on the ballot, and they all contribute to the cost of paying for polling sites, election workers, and all that it is entailed to have an efficient, fair election. So I will never vote to close a polling site. That is extremely important. The other issue, excuse me, the other issue that has come up for discussion throughout the community are both of the propositions that will be on the ballot for the November election. One of them is Prop A, and I'm actually going to read a little bit of that because I think some people don't quite understand what is proposed. So Prop A will fund vital improvements to widen, resurface, and upgrade roads and bridges throughout our community to increase safety, reduce traffic, and divert cross-county travelers away from our schools and neighborhoods. That is also tied to a bond election, which I think is important in terms of how you fund that. I think that each individual person will have to do the research and decide how they want to vote for that. I am more in favor of probably Prop A. The other one that is extremely controversial, which when I first found out about it, my initial reaction was to say that it's sort of taxation through fees. And to know that an additional $10 fee will be added to each person's annual registration of their vehicle. I find that, again, because of the economic diversity of Precinct 4, I find that could be impactful to a number of citizens, particularly those who are wage earners or earn close to minimum wage. But the reading of the proposition is that Prop B will enhance transportation funding through the Brazos County Regional Mobility Authority with a small vehicle registration fee, which is $10. This will ensure local residents have a direct seat at the table for state and federal transportation funding decisions. Nonetheless, it is a way to fund that organization and what impact it could have. It is alleged through some sources that it could lead to toll roads. From my discussion with those who are part of that, putting that issue on the ballot, that toll roads are not an issue. Again, it's so far out in terms of what they're proposing and putting in, for example, Interstate 14, creating loops around Brazos County. They're trying to divert the traffic away from the inner roads, Texas Avenue, University. They're trying to divert traffic so that for those of us who are long-term residents, they manage the traffic flow. I know that they are working with Texas Transportation Institute on the main campus. They're working with TxDOT to try to come up with great solutions to help with the increase in traffic flow in Brazos County. Again, as an informed voter, I'm going to be right back if you can hold on for a moment. You in video? Huh? I'm not live?